So, welcome back to the AthenaMD Podcast, focusing on obesity medicine. We've been kind of engaging in a series which is just geared towards rehashing kind of the information that I would normally go over in the first few visits, hopefully intended as a resource primarily for patients, because those conversations can go everywhere, and always want this to be available to you to review. So again, we always want to focus on giving you all of the information, possible. And in that first visit, really looking at obesity physiology and informed consent in terms of metabolic adaptation and hungry brain and hungry gut, and just really focusing on those two core kind of lifetime skills that we want to develop, which are going to be, surveillance, weighing, and mindful and intuitive eating, right? Okay. So then in 2, we kind of are like, okay, let's add a little layer cake, as far as, protein consumption, and that, we want to have adequate nutrition. Do we need to see a dietitian for that? And then in, visit 3, then kind of circling back to something we talk about always at the first visit, which is, the importance of physical activity. And so we do kind of start off in visit 4, also reviewing that. Because again, this is going to be usually kind of this first 3 minutes, oh my gosh, first 3 visits are usually about every month. And then we kind of go every other. So this is about 5 months, maybe after, we've started, unless something has kind of changed that. And so then at this point, we definitely want to circle back to, hey, what's going on with physical activity? And we just kind of rehash again, why do we want this? Because this is really important for maintenance, right? That's why so many people have trouble maintaining, is that we're very, very good at losing. And then that secondary skill, instead of that, kind of shifts to, really the amount of activity, right? And that's to do with metabolic adaptation, lower metabolic rate, because you are so much smaller. So we kind of reemphasize, and if we haven't started, we want to start building that, and we'll kind of, revisit, remember, this is where we're headed. And by the end of this, calories per day are going to be low, right? And in addition to just protecting your heart long-term, we want to build that habit, so that, I always say, so we can eat more, right? But also, by this time, if we haven't already, we're probably starting to hit some holidays, whether that is spring break or vacation travel, or, right now we just had Halloween when I'm filming this. And then kind of, I think of that as bulking season, honestly, the Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas gauntlet, and kind of what do we do there? And then really fine tuning in terms of, kind of focusing on the realities, because this has been now going on a long time, right? And the reality of the need for consistency, and that this is the rest of your life, really starts to set in. So there's always a couple things that we go over, okay? And one of those is kind of trying to tackle, ultra processed food, right? And fast food, okay? And so, and I think this is really important to address, because it's everywhere, right? And, I remember, when my kids were little, it's if you have little ones, they want this. And, I find sometimes the least helpful thing, in almost any area, sometimes is just being dogmatic or all or nothing. And so, I don't ever want to demonize any food, right? The food is not, bad, right? And we have to acknowledge also that food is more than just food. It is comfort. They literally have a category of food called comfort food. And, we shouldn't act or, try to deny that. This is reality. Some of these things are very nostalgic, and you're going to want them. Okay. And that is okay. And so part of the journey, I feel very strongly, is that we don't, sit there and deny or shame or, act like something, you own it, right? And you think, something I always say to patients is we don't say no, we say how. So if there is something that you want, that's okay, right? Because food is more than just food, and we don't have to be perfect. We care about long, slow, steady progress and sustainability, right? Okay. And so, to that end, it always is like you can have anything just within reason. Okay. And so we don't want this all, nothing, shame, shame. We plan. And so, we do spend some time like talking about processed food. So processed food is going to be, any food that did not come off a tree, sort of like, or some out of the ground in that state is going to have some amount of processing. Okay. And so for instance, flour, right? I mean, white flour is, more processed than whole wheat, but either one of those, you are taking and adapting really what that, kind of base starting ingredient is. And then, we've processed a little into something else. And so, there's some amount of processing. You could even say cooking is processing to all foods. But when you talk about ultra processed foods, specifically, we're talking about things that have, chemicals in them, preservatives, what a lot of people would refer to as junk food, and also fast food. And those are going to kind of go in two categories. Okay. Because again, there's all the kind of the science behind this, and we understand that it seems that processing has a disproportionate effect. Okay. And so there are a couple like very small studies out there that are done. Kevin Hall actually looked at one at the NIH. And so that really looks at, hey, if we give, to kind of people, they've got the same calories, same macros, and one person, has all processed and one person, has whole, like there can be a difference in weight gain, even though someone got the same calories and macros. What else do we know about processed foods? That if you, kind of offer patients this, and allow to free feed, people tend to eat quite a bit more of processed foods. And so, this is still an area of ongoing research. We can't, always say why. I think conspiracy theorists might be like, well, they make them addictive. And I don't know. I mean, but for whatever reason, we know that these things, at least are true. Okay. Also, we understand that in developed countries where there is more consumption of processed foods, that we do see a shift in the gut microbiota into less diversity, right? And so, we are sort of on the same team with our gut microbiota, and that will also affect definitely levels of inflammation, which can have a lot of other effects, but also the amount of energy that we can extract from food, also known as calories, right? And so in a variety of ways, the consumption of ultra processed foods can tilt the table towards potentially causing problems. And that is why, when we talk about if we are not progressing or we hit a plateau, we always want to check in really those 4 variables of food in terms of amount and, timing, not too close to bed, frequency, but then quality, right? And that's really what quality is getting at, because we have to accept, although the science may not be there in a definitive way to be able to say this, that, and the other is a problem with processed foods, or you need these probiotics to, fix your gut microbiome. We can't really say that with, certainty right now, but we do know that it's not the greatest. We see effects, and we see that there can be gain even with the same number of calories, same macros, and we see that definitely people do tend to consume more. Am I saying to go eat perfect, quinoa and steamed vegetables the rest of your life? Absolutely not. I freaking love flaming hot Cheetos. Okay. But do I have them all the time? Like, no. And so this is like, you want to begin to think of these things. Cause again, we don't demonize anything and we don't say no to anything. And if you want it, you are going to own that and you're going to plan for it. This is not a shame. Like I've got to hide it or something, because that just leads to more bad behavior later. Absolutely not. It's okay to want that. So have it and enjoy it. You are still going to be engaging in mindful and intuitive eating. It's fine to enjoy it and really be happy with it and then let it go. Okay. And so as far as for ultra processed foods, identify the things that you want and or like and cannot live without, right? Is something just a convenience food, like frozen, I don't know, the kolaches from HEB or something, like, can we live without those? Yeah, because you could probably make something really similar that would have vastly, improved sort of, health statistics on that, right? But then also identify the things that you definitely can't make a good sub for and you don't want to live without. And those are going to be like sprinkled over like a little accent, like a little punctuation mark at the end of a sentence. We can do these things. We just don't keep doing them forever. It is not the piece of pie that hurts you. It is honestly the denial and the, oh, I'm not going to have one. And then you keep like going back to the fridge and having more and more and more. And it's more than a piece was. So we plan. Okay. And so as far as some swaps, again, part of this is reflection. And that's part of what we talk through. Like, what do you like? What do you do? Right? What is a potential like, problem? Right? And the other thing sometimes with, ultra processed or fast food is that sometimes I look at the, nutrition facts for a fast food. I'm like, how do they even get that many calories in there? Right? Because you think about if you made it, it wouldn't be like that. Right? But obviously we're all pressed for time. So couple things in terms of homework, right? So I talked about the HEB kolaches, which I do really like, right? However, what is this? This is bread and a sausage, right? Okay. Well, there's lots of sausage, either like chicken sausage. Okay, so you can probably get a pretty good replacement for the sausage. And then on the bread portion, this is a huge area of variation, right? So a lot of sprouted breads, or there's lots of lower carb breads full of protein, full of fiber, which also are great for you and much more satisfying, keeping you full like over the long haul than just that quick, cheap, processed like that straight like white bread that's normally like around the kolache, right? And so, an easy swap a lot of times is like look at the bread. Okay. There's a lot of availability for different brands. Royo is one you can order because I tend to order like everything. But you've got a huge bagel there, right? And it's like 70, 80 calories. And so that's a vast improvement. So if that's something you like, again, we don't say no, like you can never have it. Just find a better version. Always, if you love it, you should still have it. I promise you, we can probably find you a better version. Okay. If you love Reese's cups, I think before we talked about, there's really amazingly flavored, like protein powders, like MC4, like you can make a Reese's cup or something very similar by just putting the Reese's protein powder in the yogurt. And then you can add like kind of melted chocolate to it. And so really, if you start looking and just take a little bit, there will always be a better option. If you like ice cream, okay. But the thing is, like, there are Ben and Jerry's pints that literally for the pint have like more than 1,300 calories. Okay. There are other brands that are amazingly delicious and it's like 700 calories for the pint, right? So even then, there is a twofold variation for the same thing. You're actually getting ice cream. And so if we just take that moment to say, not in a knee jerk, like a quick, like, I just got to grab it and go because I'm like ashamed of this. Like, no, if you're like, oh yeah, like, and you just look around, you can almost always find something that is much kinder to your, calorie budget, if you want to say it that way. But again, scratches that itch in terms of like what you really want. Okay. Turning to fast food, which is like a little bit different, but I mean, who isn't like just exhausted on the way home sometimes, or your kids are clamoring for it, or you get home and you're really tired and you just can't, bear the thought of cooking and you're going to DoorDash something. Okay. Don't act like this is never going to happen. This is 100% going to happen because you're a human being and you're living life. And this happens to all of us, right? And so plan for it, right? Like, this is going to happen. And so, I often assign as homework, at this point to go spend some time on the website of whatever your favorite fast food is, and plan, attitude of curiosity. What if they have something that, is what you like and it's like less calories? For instance, at Chick-fil-A, like one of the salads, and this may be with a recommended dressing, but one of them is over 700 calories. And the spicy chicken sandwich, which is of course the best in my book, is 480 calories. And oh my gosh, if you're not really addicted, like I am to the pickles, if you just got the filet, that's 280, right? And so, you can definitely like plan. And that's what I would want for you, is that any place that you're going to be going back to or ordering from, like just game plan it, right? The goal is that if you are, stuck in the car with your kids and they're clamoring to go to Chick-fil-A, the goal is I know what my order is like that, because when I always say when dietary crimes happen, not that it's really, but it's usually in a moment of just quick or overlook. And it was just the kind of that second, right? But what do we know in aggregate? That these small, steady changes over time, like that's what's going to get us there. Things that we can sustain, for the long haul, like forever. And so that's what we want. So we own it and we plan for it. You like the Whataburger green chili double meal? Well, sorry to say, the real one has I think it's over 2,000 calories, but not to worry. I actually do like this. I firmly believe that all of us that grew up in West Texas, I don't know, there's some you're just going to like little trash food sometimes. So, but you would plan for it, right? And so you might say, okay, I just really want that, like the green chili and the whatever. What do you like about it? Can we get away without it or not? And if you can't, because you feel like there's a Whataburger taste or something, we say, okay, so we're going to do this. What can we do to make it better? Number one, have them make it on a junior meal, right? They can also make it not as a double. You're still going to get all your green chilies and nom nom toppings, right? But, we don't have a whole nother patty, right? Number two, take a friend, share your poisoning. I'm just kidding. But start with just, I always say as a strategy, if you're going to like Cheesecake Factory or something, even if they bring you something that has 3,000 calories, if you planned for it and you knew you were going to go out and maybe you kind of were really good kind of through the day because you're going to go out to dinner, even if you just start with looking at half of it, that's fine too. So if you really like it as the double, as everything, plan on half, right? And then just, live the rest of your day. One other technique that we talk about is if you're like, no, I have to have the green chili double and I want it with the sauteed onions and I want it with the jalapeno cream sauce on it. Fine, do it. Just put everything on it and just, would you be content with having the most decadent, wonderful thing that you absolutely love, but eating it like it's on a tasting menu, right? So when you take that bite, we are right back to that mindful eating, chewing it, enjoying it, loving it, being all in your feelings about it because it's amazing. And you were anticipating this and you really wanted it. And then sometimes you might find if you just allow yourself to enjoy it, that you might be okay with half of it, a quarter of it, because the goal is not to have all of it like I used to till I finish it and I don't feel great, but scratch the itch and move on. Okay. I will also, Whataburger ketchup, amazing. I actually, when I reflect, I don't even really care about the fries, right? I just want the spicy ketchup. And so, if I were having this, and I think the last time was a few months ago, it's I'm going to plan on half of the, kind of burger. And then I probably would get onion rings. They'd never give you enough. There's very few in there. I'm not going to upsize. And then I'm just going to eat the heck out of one of the, spicy ketchups. And then you've scratched your itch. You've had a few, move on. But nothing is disallowed to you. Nothing is a never food, right? It's always about reflection and what do you want? And if it's not something that can reasonably be subbed out, then we're going to take the time to plan for it, own it, game plan it. We also talk sometimes, I know I did a series a while back on partial meal replacement, which is a great technique if you know that, you're going to baby shower, wedding shower, out for dinner and Jinx, and that's, you use a couple meal replacement shakes or higher quality protein shakes during the meal. And you've essentially calorie banked a lot left over for whatever your, and it's just being accountable. This is budgeting, right? When we go into a store and buy everything, but you can't, right? Because we have to all be accountable. Same thing here. There's nothing that you can't have if you have budgeted and accounted for it. Absolutely fine. And we do not say no. We say how. And if we can't make a sub, we are going to just plan and then be accountable, because in the long term, because this is forever, right? This isn't some, hey, I did this for a few weeks and then I get to go back to whatever and just never think about anything and do whatever. That's not reality, right? And so we understand if we have lived with obesity, if we've lost more than 10% of our weight, if we have incurred metabolic adaptation, life's never going to be totally fair. But we can engage in these this planning and we can really like mitigate a lot of this, right? And so always good to plan. And then also we will kind of, to the extent that we can, go through like kind of deviations from routine. It's one thing to stay on track when we are on our routine, right? Like so many people are like, oh, I do great Monday through Thursday, and then everything falls apart in the weekend. And I've seen that myself, right? Weight ticks up on the weekend, and then spend the week recovering. And so, it's hard to plan for a deviation of routine because things can always pop up as surprises, but you can plan for disaster, right? And so, taking those moments to know like, oh my gosh, it's on the weekends, we're going to be doing this, that, and the other. Stash some healthy snacks or things in your bag, right? Like things like chomps or new primal beef sticks, right? Those are shelf stable. They can stay in there for a long time. And then you have, a protein rich, hopefully satisfying like snack that can get you through the rest of the day if you're just like off your routine. So I think it is a great strategy to have a few protein shakes at work. Pro tip, do not leave these in your car in Texas. They kind of congeal. You're not going to want that. Don't leave them in your car. But having them at work is a great strategy. Having, shelf stable like snacks. It is so cool nowadays because like you can get packaged olives called olives. You can get Sucker Punch, like packaged pickles, right? So many packages of like different nuts. Be careful in those. They are calorie rich. The beef sticks, the chickpeas, right? The crispy ones, like there's so many options. So make sure that you plan for when, life happens, that you're already set up and you have something ready made to turn to that you have already thought through, right? And so if we know you're an accountant and it's headed towards April or tax season, you just know, hey, life's going to happen. And so, make sure that you have those options wherever you are. Okay. As far as for holidays and travel and social, kind of things, I do spend some time talking about, data we have on women, especially, in that, sometimes on a weight loss journey, it really can change friendships, right? Like just anthropologically, when this is studied, females often will have sort of like a ranking, kind of system. Some of that's, based on appearance. And so it can really be challenging. Sometimes relationships can really change throughout a weight loss journey. You want to be prepared for that. Definitely I feel like when you're actively losing and your first year of maintenance is not the time to get into sort of intellectual debates with people at the holidays about whether or not, GLP meds are cheating. No, they're not, because treating is not cheating, but you know who we're talking about, right? And so definitely at the holidays, kind of some, concerns are always like, grandmas can be food pushers, and I just am like, when you have the strength, right? I'm going to say probably year 2 or 3 of maintenance and you want to engage in that debate, that's great. Early in the journey, outwardly comply. So just put food on the plate, again, if it's a holiday like buffet and like a food fest like Thanksgiving, just think of yourself like on a tasting menu, right? And channel your inner toddler. I promise you, once you outwardly comply and that food's on the plate, nobody really notices, kind of like what you do with it. And that kind of gets you a pass, right? Definitely understand with a holiday, it's okay to celebrate, right? And so who cares? What you do in one day is not going to determine your fate. What you do the whole other, 29 days of the month, that's what matters really for your story. And so, little to no guilt, because again, food is more than just food and it is okay to celebrate, right? And then we always just want to get back on the horse is what I always say. It's like, you just come back. It's okay to deviate. It's okay to say, as I did in 2023, it's my 25th anniversary. I want to be in the moment. I'm not going to, kind of track and I'll deal with it when I get back. That's okay. But we do get back, right? And so we always want to come back and just realize, like I always say, if you plan on being in the planet in 5 years, who cares if you lose like a pound a month, which you would never notice on the scale? You're still going to be 48 pounds down in 4 years, right? Or I guess 60 in 5. I mean, slow changes, right? I mean, that's fine. And so, just reflectively look, what do I need? What do I have to have? It is okay to have those things. Swap out what you can. Ask questions, right? If there's something you love, if there, there's so many resources available. You love ice cream. Oh, what is that thing? The Ninja Creamy. My sister has one. It's really cool. There's almost always, technology is getting so much better. There's almost always a solution. And if you can't find one, then we own it. We plan for it. We do it. And then we move on and come back to our habits. So, so many options. And this is kind of the point where we really just want to begin helping people kind of get ready in their normal life, because, weight loss journey takes a long time and we are going to encounter life. And honestly, that's kind of a blessing because it helps us navigate through it if we're having problems with stress eating or getting back to, those ultra processed or fast foods that were such a comfort maybe previously. And that's all okay. It's all okay. You just get back on the horse. And so next time we will be focusing on a little more of that. And so if you've liked what you've heard, comment, subscribe. See you next week.